obviously, if social media had not had an advertisement model for its revenue model that monetized people's attention, where it made more money as they spent more time on site and as they clicked on engaged in more things, they would have that same underlying technology of curating all the world's information, harvesting data about people and curating the world's information to them. If, say, you had paid for the service and you could set the settings of how you wanted your mind to be affected, you could say, actually, I want to be exposed to ideas that are very different than the ideas I currently have. I want not things that appeal to limbic hijacks. I want things that have longer, deeper analyses rather than short attention span types of things. And so you could develop those technologies in very different ways if you thought through what the externalities might be and then said, how do we do the design differently? There's all this conversation about, should we censor hate speech on social media? And it's mostly a misnomer, because it's not that someone says some nasty thing that's a problem. It's that that thing gets amplified to millions of people in a way that in a town square would have never happened. What is the algorithm that determines if 5 people see your thing or 500 million people see your thing? The algorithm actually selects for the things that cause the most division, right? Because if you get people fighting in a thread, the activity of that thread upregulates the thing. So that algorithm is going to polarize the population. It's going to create more enmity. Now, could you design the algorithm to say, we're not going to maximize for engagement, in which case fighting can be engagement, because we're not talking about freedom of speech now. We're talking about an unprecedented thing in the history of the world, which is the ability to have someone's idea put in front of the whole world. And we're the ones, the algorithm is getting to choose how much attention this thing gets. It's not like there's some natural selection where if people really like it, it's the algorithm is picking certain things that it's optimizing, how many people's newsfeed it puts it in and in what position of primacy. So it's like, that has nothing to do with freedom of speech. That's a totally different, weird thing. And so if you say, well, we can amplify anybody's ideas, what is the basis of the should, the ought associated with the is, of which ideas are really worth amplifying? Right now, it's mostly the worst ones, the ones that are intrinsically most divisive and limbic hijacking and attention capturing. And so what if you said, okay, we're going to look at ideas that, or content that gets generally positive reaction across political lines and across ideological divides, meaning you're finding things that are more shared views than divisive views. And that those people can still post the divisive ones, but the ones the algorithm is going to upregulate are those ones. You'd have a very different world. You'd have a world in which people started to recognize more and more things that they share in common that they could then build on and continue to increase, rather than like the weirdest straw man versions of each other that isn't, even true. And you'd have an incentive for content creators to write things that were actually going to appeal across ideologic divides rather than appeal to one while polarizing the other, which actually drives the arms race of both sides. So if you do that kind of anticipate the harms that might occur, you might just not do the thing, but you might also do the thing very differently, right? You might also change the design in very fundamental ways. So if we optimize for very narrow goals, don't pay attention to all the other effects, but continue to have exponentially more powerful technologies that scale to the world faster and have effects in the world much faster, the cumulative externalities of that, plus the cumulative rivalry that drives, will be extinctionary.